I wanted to welcome everyone to the public hearing Community Development Block Grant CDBG program for the state of New York. Nancy, can you please read the legal notice?
The Town of Webb will hold a public hearing on April 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, 3140 State Route 28, Old Forge, New York, for the purpose of hearing public comments on the Town of Webb's proposed Community Development Block Grant Program, Scattered Site Housing Rehabilitation, and other community development needs, and to discuss the possible submission of one or more Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, applications for the 2023 program year. The New York State Community Development Block Program is a federally funded program administered by the Housing Trust Fund Corporation, HTFC, Office of Community Renewal, OCR. The program provides resource to non-entitlement communities to enable the development of decent, affordable house, create suitable living environments, and enhance economic opportunities across the state. The CDBG program is administered by the New York State Office of Community Renewal and will make available to eligible local governments approximately $40 million in fiscal year 2023 for housing, economic development, public facilities, public infrastructure, planning activities with the principal purpose of benefiting low, moderate income persons. The 2023 Notice of Funding Availability, NOFA, N-O-F-A, will announce that the Housing Trust Fund Corporation will make available approximately $40 million of federal funds for the following programs. $20 million New York State Community Development Block Grant funding for public infrastructure, public facilities, and community planning. $10 million New York State Community Development Block Grant funding for housing activities. $10 million New York State Home Program. These amounts are provided as guidelines for expected awards, and the HTFC, the Housing Trust Fund Corporation, reserves the right to award additional funds, a portion of, or none of the funds based on funding availability. The Town of Webb is planning to apply for up to $500,000 in CDBG funding for housing rehabilitation and related activities with the principal purpose of benefiting low, moderate income persons. The hearing will provide further information about the CDBG program and will allow for citizens' participation in the development of any proposed grant applications and/or to provide technical assistance to develop alternate proposals. Comments on the CDBG program or proposed project or projects will be received at the time of the hearing. The hearing is being conducted pursuant to Section 570.486 and Subpart 1 of the CFR and in compliance with the requirements of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended. The location of this hearing is accessible to persons with disabilities. If special accommodations are needed for persons with disabilities, those with hearing impairments, or those in need of translation from English, those individuals should contact the town clerk, Nancy Russell, by mail or phone during regular business hours at least 1 week in advance of the hearing to follow for necessary arrangements. Written comments regarding the proposed CDBG program may be also submitted to Bonnie Baker, Town Supervisor. The last date to receive comments is April 21st, 2023. By order of the Town Board, Town Webb.
Thank you.
In a nutshell.
All comments shall be directed to the town board and be relevant to the topic and will become part of the record. When called upon, please state your name for the record and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone?
I just have a question. Does the town board have any idea what specific grant would be that they would be applying for? Or is this just a general ask for money?
I'm going to let Don answer that.
Okay. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Don Hall. I'm CEO of Opportunities for Upstate. I'm happy to report that next year will be my 50th year at this. And I wrote my first grant in 1979.
You must like it.
I do. And the bottom line is I like helping people, and that's what this program does. And this program will be 50 years old next year as well. So. The answer to your question is we can diversify in terms of the program priorities. Housing scattered site was what we did last year, and I suggest you go back down that road. Infrastructure is an eligible activity. Community facilities are eligible, and economic development activities are eligible. You can apply for all four of those or one, depending on the wishes of the board and the outcome of this hearing. Just a quick couple of ground rules. One of them is, this is a hearing, we're here to listen to you. There will be no final decisions made during the hearing itself. So other than that, we're good to go. Does that answer your question?
Any other comments? Great, do I have a motion to close this public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Who seconded that?
Kurt.
Kurt did?
Kurt,
I couldn't hear,
thank
sorry.
you. Okay, welcome to public hearing for local law number blank 2023. Amending the zoning ordinance of the town of Webb to allow marina as a conditional use in sub-district CB5. I'd like to call the public hearing to order. Nancy, can you please read the notice of the public hearing?
Whereas New York State town law allows town boards in New York to regulate the uses of buildings, structures, and land within the town through zoning ordinance or local laws. And whereas the town board may amend the existing provisions of zoning ordinance, and whereas proposed local law number 1 of 2023 was prepared and the procedure to adopt undertaken, which would have amended the zoning ordinance of the town of Webb by adding marina as permitted conditional use is zoning sub-district CB5. And whereas, under New York State law, no law may be passed until a public hearing has been held. And whereas the town has determined that there was an irregularity in the adoption process regarding notice of public hearing for local law number 1 of 2023, the town board wishes to ensure, excuse me, that the adoption of any local law be consistent with all requirements of law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Webb Town Board shall meet, hold a public hearing at the Town Visitor Information Center, 3140 State Route 28, at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, April 11th, to consider proposed local law number 2 of 2023, permitting marina as a conditional use in CB5 zoning sub-district, and to hear all interested parties, and at that time may take any other actions authorized by law concerning the proposed local law. And be it further resolved that the town board authorizes and directs the Webb Town Clerk to publish and post a notice of public hearing concerning the proposed local law in the manner provided by law.
Thank you. The purpose of this hearing is to amend the zoning ordinance of the town of Webb to allow marina as a conditional use in sub-district CB5. All comments shall be directed to the board and be relevant to the topic and will become part of the record. Please remember, these are comments. We will not be answering questions. When called upon, please state your name for the record and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Katie Radilla. I'm the co-owner of Water's Edge Inn with Kelly Green. She can't be here tonight. She shares the same thought process that I do. So here we go. I'm here to oppose the allowance of the marina in the CB5 zone. The only reason we're here today is because one person is looking to purchase commercial property in the CB5 and requested the law to be changed for a marina option to be added. The proposed project is a very large docking system that impedes on my hotel property as well as the property of many of my neighbors. As you know, the CB5 zone is an odd-shaped zone that encompasses a small area of lakefront in front of my hotel and over towards Steamboat Landing and then basically back down towards North Street down the airport. Let's be honest, there are not many other commercially zoned businesses in the CB5 who are looking to put a marina offshore. So that leaves my business and Steamboat Landing and maybe some waterfront next to the Old View Art Center building for the proverbial marina location. No business person should have the right to come in and request a law change that impedes a business as drastically as this project intends. Guests visit my hotel in our beautiful lakeside location to take in what the Adirondacks have to offer. Our Lakeview rooms and suites are a higher price point for that very reason. They're certainly not staying with us for a view of a large docking system or a marina for that matter. It directly affects my business, not to mention will totally devalue my property and the neighboring properties. The board has a second chance now to understand what this means for our community. When this was proposed originally, there was little information. Now here we are a year later with much greater knowledge of the request. For the record, we just learned about this change a couple of short weeks ago. Never once did anyone come to talk to us about it. There are so many things to be considered. Navigation concerns are the biggest, but there's also noise, lighting, and especially environmental concerns on various levels. I would like to draw attention to the short environmental survey that was done and signed off by Town Supervisor Bonnie Baker. There are two options to answer when filling out this short survey. The first is no or small impact, and the other to check is moderate to large impact may occur. All of these questions on this survey were checked no or small impact may occur. I would strongly disagree that all these points on this environmental survey should have been answered no or small impact. Number 2 on the short survey reads, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? It was marked no. Number 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? It was marked no as well. There are other questions on here for environmental concerns that were all marked no, such as will the proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources? Example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna. This was marked no as well. I'm no expert, and I don't think anybody on the board or the town supervisor is on any of those environmental concerns. And I'd like to see some form of assurance that some of these questions were actually not an impact. Has the APA been informed of this change? And where do they stand on the impact? Remember, we're talking about the entire CB5. So I would think there would need to be much more research and due diligence done on these important factors. I'm almost done, I got 2 seconds.
That's okay.
We foiled the environmental survey from the town clerk, but it only included part 2 and part 3. Part 1 for these questions were not included in the FOIL request, so I'm not sure what part 1 might have referenced, but it wasn't included in the FOIL request. By voting for the marina and the CB5, you're voting in favor of this project. There's no secret at this point. You're voting to change the landscape of our community for generations to come. At the very least, I think it's quite evident that the board should table this vote and consider everything that comes with the marina and the CB5. Not only on the lakefront, but other areas within. Is the board prepared to entertain other requests to add a marina in zones that don't have it just to accommodate docking systems? Pandora's box will be fully opened. I urge the town board to vote no on this change, or again, at the very least, table it. Lastly, we will have no choice but to pursue legal action on this matter should the board vote to approve the marina and the CB5. Something we don't want to do, believe me, nobody does, but like I said, we have no choice, and we need to do that to protect our community and my business. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Take it with us.
Sorry. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Pagano Fenley. My property abuts the proposed zoning change and the potential would-be marina, which would be situated between our home and the lake. And it is our camp, so I recognize that maybe my words don't hold quite as much clout as some other folks who call this, are very, very fortunate to call this their primary home. But, you know, Brian's been coming here since he was my husband, since he was 10 years old, snowmobiling. Since our first date, he told me his lifelong dream was to have a home in Old Forge. So, you know, we do love this town like it's our own, and we're not opposed to economic growth or fostering the development of this town. I really love, actually, that first, you know, piece that you were discussing, actually. You know, we were actually really happy to pay to be able to rent our home, to be able to afford it, but to also be able to, you know, give back to the town. You know, when we aren't able to use it, just to make it possible to own a piece of this paradise and, you know, to comply with the regulation to ensure that as places do grow and change with the changing times, that it's not to the detriment of the town. So with that said, you know, this is not in my backyard campaign, but just to take into consideration at what cost are these changes. So, you know, the following concerns do apply, I think, universally, even though the section D1A does state in the code states that the land use and development should be planned to minimize impact upon adjoining and nearby land uses, especially residential uses, and shall not adversely affect the surrounding properties. This does affect, I think, everyone, in addition to maybe our property or some of the surrounding properties. Everyone living and visiting the town. So ultimately, we're here to ensure that there's no detriment to the beauty that makes this place as magical, as it is, and to mitigate the safety required to keep it enjoyable for all. So, to echo your sentiments, although this hearing is technically in response to the proposal to allow for any marina in the CB5 zone, when you break down where the waterfront zone affects, this specific, person or entity is requesting a change for the specific property, and the proposal to be discussed in the future will specifically be considered for having 40 unmanned boat slips for a marina that takes up a significant amount of Old Forge's peaceful pond. So, in saying that, here are the potential issues that I can foresee with the future marina allowed in the proposed location. It's a hazard of navigation. The pond is already a very busy waterway, especially in the summer. I think we've all seen people not abiding by the rules.
The no wake zone.
Pardon?
The no wake zone.
The
as
no
far as-
wake zone and everything. The proposal is for the back corner of the pond, so as opposed to rivets where boats for the marina, would have to go through the pond in its entirety. The pond is often used for kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, paddle boats, even swimming. I don't have to tell you guys, especially considering it's right across from the public town beach, this causes safety issues for non-motorized vessels in the water, for which the pond has been historically very safe, to enjoy. Also, environmental concerns, including potential need to dredge, increased potential for fuel and oil spills, especially if this is an unmanned, non-retail fuel dispensing marina. So therefore presenting environmental concerns for wildlife in the water, and environmental concerns for animals on land that a huge increase in traffic could affect. Brian and I saw an otter catching a fish last weekend. The otter's this big and the fish is this big, and we sat there and watched it for 30 minutes, and that's part of the magic of the town. And the environmental assessment submitted is lacking supporting information. So I'm almost done. Simple checklist lacking facts or figures or support by the APA or the DEC. So does feel a little bit like a misrepresentation by an omission. Other concerns relate to future planning and potential for a slippery slope. I'm sure it was a clerical oversight, but Water's Edge and other adjoining neighbors were omitted from the list as being potentially unaffected, being affected, by the folks looking to purchase the land, and that's who was in charge of informing us, So, I guess to close, just the vote is technically not on this specific project. Ultimately, that will be in question, and on the town code website, one of the considerations for changing the zoning is to take into consideration changing the conditional uses for the changing character and quality of landscape, and specifically the historical architecture and visual character, attractiveness, and general image of the town and its natural setting within the Adirondack Park are important, valuable public assets. So it belongs to all of the town people, which promote and support the health and the general welfare of the town and its residents and business. It's not Miami. People don't want a marina view. They want a lake view. Townspeople and the visitors want to come to this town. They want a view of the landscape of the Adirondacks. And, I think we should protect that.
Thank you.
So do I get 3 minutes too, or is that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sorry, just to make sure.
A minute and a half now.
So basically, on the submittals, there really wasn't like a scale drawing as to how it actually is on the pond. So we went ahead and kind of, we put the scale drawing on here so we can actually see. So basically, we superimposed this over and basically had the measurements put on there. So you can kind of see, this wasn't a part of the submittal, although the background was, but there was only this one, this one side that would say, hey, it's 25 feet off of this dock, this existing dock that's been there for about 50 so years. So you can see it definitely creates some choke points here, and as far as a navigational hazard, for vessels, coming to port and exiting port, especially, this landowner over here, I believe that's the Pied Piper, I forget his name, but this is our dock over here as well. So what's preventing someone from tying up to this dock as well and having a transient slip, or going too wide abreast from two boats going there and going into this land. So there are potential, definitely some environmental concerns that need to be addressed as far as the depth of it. Are these boats? Is there any dredging that's going to be done? As far as also in the parking, is there a parking plan that's being addressed? Like how many cars can this allow? Also a lighting plan. So these all factors come into play. Like how many foot candles are going to be in that parking lot where it's going to be spreading light onto other adjacent neighbors and stuff. So these are all items that we like to kind of figure out and address sooner and later. And also like the swimming area. The swimming area goes, if you look over here, so we went ahead and did this comp as well, because like this is also important as far as like these are factors that need to be included when you start zoning changes and also project approvals. So we superimpose this based upon the current measurements as well. So this dock comes out almost to this sandbar of Water's Edge over there. So it really extends almost past where the swimming area is there. So now your boat traffic is now being pushed westward. So that's creating more of a safety concern. So what happens is right now a huge thing right now is prop hits. People sometimes get hit by boats and they get lacerations to people and stuff. So these are all concerns that need to be addressed, and also impact surrounding areas. Like this is the current view, and then now you're going to have a view of 3/4 of the way of the all these slips and stuff. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am?
Now we need about 10 seconds.
There you go.
I gave you 10 seconds.
No, I just want to say that I'm opposed to the zoning change regardless of this drawing and the proposed docks that this property owner is looking to put in the water. I just believe that Old Forge Pond is just way too small to accommodate another marina. When you look at what rivets, how much space and impact is over on that side of the pond, to include that on the other side of the pond, I think is a bad idea.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, my name is John Ebel. I'm at 111 Steamboat Landing, and I can't say it much more eloquently than these folks did, but I oppose as well. It's right in my front yard essentially, so it's also my camp. But I drove from Rochester to be here to oppose. So, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
David Winslow.
Yep.
Just one note, I didn't plan on this topic tonight, but you mentioned Rivets Marina. Rivets Marina owns the underlying, owns the water out in front of the marina.
Correct.
They own the property. It's from the old maps before the property was flooded. Does this property, this marina area own the underlying water? Yeah, so the Rivets, what I'm getting at is Rivets dockage is within their property lines. I'll say, well, my previous owners, I could say 100%. I don't know if it's been extended in any sense, previous owners, but that's a kind of a little bit different situation because they own the property. Over here, you're standing out in front of 3 other properties and blocking them off. That's unfair. They have that many boat slips in front of someone else. It's like, say, camp on the lake, going out and building an L off their dock in front of the neighbor's property. So when I heard about a marina, I thought maybe a few dock spaces along the shoreline. I never anticipated seeing 40 boat slips over there. So it's a whole different beast. So take that into consideration if you would, please.
Thank you. Anyone else?
You got my name, right? Brian Fenley?
Thank you, Brian.
What's your last name?
Fenley, F-E-N-L-E-Y. And I was opposed to it. What is your name? What's your first name?
Brian.
Sarah.
Oh.
Sarah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any more comments? Having heard all the comments from those wishing to speak on the topic, would someone like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting, April. I'd like to call the meeting to order and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next regular meeting will be on May 9th at 7 p.m. The May Audit of Claims meeting will be held on the first Monday, May 1st at 5:30 p.m. Executive session may occur this evening if deemed necessary. The clerk received a thank you from the Pink Ribbon Riders for their support for the community and the town board. The Pink Ribbon Riders raised over $41,000 to help with breast cancer patients. That's amazing, and we thank them as well. Babette White wrote a letter to the town board with her concerns about the 5G tower that's mounted on the side of the building between the tow bar and the Helmer's fuel and its harmful effects. Do you have that letter?
I do.
Could you read that, please?
To the town of Webb, supervisor and all town board members, I am writing this letter to express my concerns about the 5G tower that is mounted on the side of the building between the tow bar and Helmer's Fuel. It was brought to my attention in September of 2022, and I promptly wrote a letter to the editor of the Weekly Express town paper. They never printed my letter, nor did they acknowledge why they wouldn't print my letter, nor did they respond to my email, telling them they were rude and unprofessional, not acknowledging me at all. This is concerning but not surprising. It seems nowadays when someone questions the narrative, any narrative that goes against what is happening that should not be happening, that someone is ignored, censored, shot down, or told they are conspiracy theorist. It's rather sad and worrisome that when you do your research and find out the truth of things that you are then labeled a conspirator. I can honestly say that if that's the label, I am proud to wear it because I do my research and I do find out the facts and the truths of things that I believe are wrong and harmful. Sad part is that a high percentage of people don't do any research, and so they don't know about the harmful effects of things such as EMF radiation, specifically 5G. I have previously submitted some of my 5G research that I printed out, and I believe it is already in the hands of you, the town board. I have another that I am submitting with this letter, and if you want more, I can give you piles if you'd like. I would just need time to print them out. But seeing as I brought your attention to this again, maybe some of you could take the time to do some research yourselves and understand exactly how unhealthy the 5G rollout is. I don't know how long the 5G tower I referred to has been there, or if there are any others in or near the town of Webb. But maybe we should start paying attention to this issue and have the towers removed. This should not be about whether anyone has good cell phone reception when they come to Old Forge. It should be about the health and safety of our visitors, our residents, our pets, and most importantly, our children. Thank you for your time. Babette White.
Thank you. The clerk received a letter of resignation from Ellen Wilcox for the Board of Review. Ellen's been on the board since 2013. We thank Ellen for all of her years of commitment. The clerk received a letter of resignation from Paul Martin for the Planning Board. Paul's been on the board since 2020, filling out Reed Proper's term. Thank you to Paul for all of his years of commitment as well. Tonight we have John Putnam is here, and he's going to talk to us about the steamboat landing process update. Over here we have a pump station going in over there, and John's here to talk to us and give us an update.
Sure.
Thank you, John.
Hey, John.
Hello, how are you? Yeah, this has been a project long in the making, I guess. I remember looking at it over 10 years ago for the town. Initially, it was in planning stages then, but essentially it's a sanitary sewer pump station. It exists now. on Steamboat Landing, and it's been in service since 1972. So it's 50 years young. And but even back then, 10 years ago, it was questionable how much service life it had left to it. So for over the past 10 years, roughly, and we've been talking with the town about it, and the town had us design a new station. So that's what we did, and got bids last year on the station from a contractor, and they were going to start last fall, but it got a little late in the year, and winter was coming in, and decided to kind of postpone construction until this spring. So they just got out there a few weeks ago. It's in construction right now, and yeah, it's going well. They're moving along. They just set the wet well. Basically, that's a big concrete structure. It's just over 20 feet deep in the ground. They got a good sized hole over there, but it's back to the station itself. It was needed. The reliability of that existing station was getting questionable. If that station went down, there'd be basically no sewer service over there, and it's something that's couldn't be fixed very easily. So I think the town made the right decision to upgrade that piece of infrastructure. So yeah, other than that, I was over at the site today, met with the contractor. The wet well's in. They had some challenges getting down to the grade. They ran into kind of an erratic, which is a boulder, a very large boulder, and fortunately they were able to work through that and jackhammer through it. We were wondering if it was going to be solid bedrock, and but it broke up for them, and they got down to the proper grade, and they set the structure. So that was kind of the biggest challenge of the job is over, and now they're coming up out of the ground, and it's kind of a perfect time of the year to do it, because I don't know if you're familiar with looking down Steamboat, and you can see there's some big iron over there, and a lot of construction materials laid out, and fortunately the contractor was able to work with the property owners in the town to stage their equipment and materials to do the work, and the snow went away, so there's no snowmobilers now, and it's not, it was kind of like, I think it's perfect timing for this to get done, to get them in and out, and so the town has a new pump station, new sanitary pump station there. It's reliable, it's there when they need it. It's also much easier to operate and maintain than the existing, and it's much safer to operate and maintain. So that's all important. But yeah, other than that, if there's anything else you want to hear on it, it's not.
I do, yeah.
Sure.
So test borings were done, and the hole was actually moved to a slightly different location, it's my understanding, at a higher cost to us, correct? They had to bring in special equipment to break through this rock?
They encountered rock, yes.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Because the subsurface investigation didn't show bedrock.
Right.
Yep.
So I was told by the DPW superintendent that we're going to be working with you somehow to reduce the cost to the town, so that we're not paying the full price of this extra equipment that was
Correct.
a large sum of money to bring to town. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So when they hit rock, we had built in the contract an allowance for unforeseen conditions, a contingency. So this is exactly what it would be used for. Contractor presented cost. You don't know what it's going to cost until you do the work, but we had them provide unit rates on labor, material, and equipment to do that, and which were all fair. So now, from that point on, it's just a matter of quantifying the labor, materials, and equipment, which we're doing now, since they just got done. So, and all the rates were fair. I mean, we have a lot of experience with these projects. We have pricing from all over the state for all this type of work. And
What Scott had said was that the borings were done in a slightly different location, though. So I didn't know, if we had done borings where this rock was, would we have discovered that and been a little more prepared?
If that'd be a tough one, because it's an erratic rock. It's just a big boulder under the ground. The bore we did went right by it, just the side of it.
Okay.
And we had to do a bore not right over the wet well because it was kind of an environmentally sensitive area. It's not able to get to that location, so.
Do you anticipate any other needs for contingency from this point forward? Have we exhausted our
We-
contingency doing this?
No, I haven't used any yet.
Not yet.
The
But will it?
materials are all, I'm just kinda thinking out loud, they have all their materials. The hardest part's done.
John, am I understanding that they're gonna fill the old one in instead of removing it to try to save costs?
That, by spec or by contract, we asked them to, require them to remove
To
the
remove
old
it.
pump station.
Okay,
They asked if they can leave it.
that's what they were talking about
I
today.
didn't, I just said there's potential to leave it, but they have to be, have to consider it later. Cause there is an item in there to remove it, so there's a cost to remove that. As a minimum, they need to take the mechanicals
The mechanics
out of
out.
the station,
Correct.
basically gut it, take all the mechanicals out, and fill it in with a flowable fill, which is basically a low strength concrete, in case you ever needed to dig through there again. But to take it out is some work because they gotta go back down 20-25 feet to, at the bottom of this well, there's a ballast on it that's, you can't simply just grab this wet well from the top and pull it up out of the ground. It's not gonna happen. You gotta dig down and break away that ballast that's built on there to get to it. So that's still on the table.
Okay,
So, and we'll, be considering that moving forward. But my job right now is to get all these quantities figured out and have some agreement with the contractor on what's extra cost. Basically, the extra cost is breaking the rock. They already had to excavate something out of there, which was soil, but it classifies as rock. They tried to dig it out with a machine, and, but it wasn't rippable with a bucket. They needed to break it with a hydraulic hammer first, so, and then dig it out. But it's the same process. Once it's broke, it's placed in a truck and trucked away. That's not extra. So it's just breaking of the rock is extra. That's the understanding we had with the contractor, so.
So you just have to understand our concern here is, the sewer district doesn't have just extra money laying around to acquire these extra costs. And this buffer that you put in there of $25,000, that doesn't go far when we hear that it was, whatever that was, a godly amount of money per day. So we did have some concerns.
Yeah, right. Well, that's why, we didn't agree to the way they presented their cost, because it was like, they wanted like a day rate. It's like, no, you're just getting paid for the extra steps, which is breaking the rock, not X dollars a day. They still had to do whatever they had to do. It was just the material's the difference. That's all.
Right.
So they agreed to that.
Okay.
But it's something we caught. It's like we're not moving ahead of the day rate. It's not like it doesn't work that way.
thank you.
I have a question. So are you guys on track as far as like with a May completion date? I think was it May 15th completion or?
It appears so. Yeah, even with this little rock,
Yeah.
it took them an extra few days, to do that. It's yeah, as long as the weather's cooperative, and all the materials are been reviewed, approved by our office, and they had them all. That was one of the holdups. Lead times on
Submittals, yeah.
materials these days is pretty long.
Will
And
there
it was
be
the
any-
pump. It was the pump control components, like the instrumentation stuff they were waiting on.
Will there be any interruption when the switchover's done?
No, it's designed to have no interruption. Yeah.
Is there
The
a
sewer
backup
service.
generator if we lose power?
There's a receptacle that you can bring a portable generator to that station and plug it in and power it.
That's what we do now.
That'd be an added feature from the existing one.
Does the board have any more questions? Thank you, John, very much.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate it. The board held a public hearing early this evening for CDBG requirement for New York State. I need a motion authorizing the town to proceed with developing the application for CDBG scattered site housing rehabilitation. Tom, second? Mhm. Any board discussion?
No, let's get them.
All right. Nancy, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Gardner?
Aye.
Councilman Greco?
Aye.
Councilwoman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Ross?
Aye.
Supervisor Baker?
Aye. Local law number 2 of 2023, the board held a public hearing early this evening to amend the zoning ordinance of the town of Webb to allow marina as a conditional use in subdistrict CB5. What is the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion, due to new information that we only received this morning and the comments that were made here tonight, that we table this for, conversation with our attorney.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any board discussion?
Don't think we have a choice,
Thank you.
so.
A roll call vote, please, Nancy.
Councilman Gardner?
Aye.
Councilman Greco?
Aye.
Councilwoman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Ross?
Aye.
Supervisor Baker?
Aye.
Five ayes.
Zoning Board of Appeals appointment. I need a motion that the board appoint Hank LaFountain as the alternate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'll move.
Or second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
No, glad to have him
Thanks,
aboard.
Hank.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you,
he has
Hank.
lots of experience.
Roll call vote, please, Nancy.
Councilman Gardner?
Aye.
Councilman Greco?
Aye.
Councilwoman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Ross?
Aye.
Supervisor Baker?
Aye.
Five ayes.
Planning Board appointment. A motion that the board appoint Alex Mitchell to the Planning Board to fulfill Dan Englert's term to expire on 12/31/2023. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Board discussion?
Thanks,
Thank you.
Alex.
You're one of them now.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Nancy, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Gardner?
Aye.
Councilman Greco?
Aye.
Councilwoman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Ross?
Aye.
Supervisor Baker?
Aye.
Five ayes.
The board will be holding a special meeting on April 25th, 2023 at 1 p.m. to open bids that were received for the constructing of the new ultraviolet light disinfection system and headworks improvements at the existing wastewater treatment plant. It's been a long time coming, huh?
Yeah, it sure has. And I will have to say this. This has been a huge thing for me, and I'm not going to be here that day. Sorry.
We'll take care of it for
Do you
you.
want us to invite Don Hale, because he really worked hard on this
No,
too?
he did. Jeez.
Like a
No,
motion that the board authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement to retain Goldberger and Kremer as its labor relations attorney and consultants for the upcoming negotiating services with the PBA and the CSEA contracts. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Board discussion?
Yes, there were two different contracts proposed, and do we know which we are going with? Do we have a board decision on that?
We don't. Which one would you guys like to go with?
Oh,
Well, one was a retainer for an annual fee for 3 years, and one was just to pay them for the negotiations and completion of that.
I feel that at this point we just need some negotiation help.
Agreed. I don't want a retainer.
yeah, I think that's.
There was
that's the right
duplication, I
move.
think, with what Brian can do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear.
All right, sounds good. Can we have a roll call vote, please, Nancy?
Councilman Gardner?
Aye.
Councilman Greco?
Aye.
Councilwoman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Ross?
Aye.
Supervisor Baker?
Aye.
Five ayes.
Okay. What did I miss here?
Are we having a meeting on the 18th when, the night of the zoning?
Yeah, that's just the lawyer coming. You guys are having a legal session with the lawyer.
Okay, and what time? 5?
5 o'clock.
Okay. So it's not a public meeting?
It's not a
just
public meeting, it's just the lawyer, you guys talking to
Okay,
the lawyer.
all right, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
No, that's okay.
Okay, so Kurt, I guess we're ready for you.
Yeah, not too much. We did receive the hockey boards, they're put away. I wanna thank DPW for all their hard work in doing that. Took a little bit, but everything fit into the storage unit there and stacked up, and we have possession of it. Ski hill's closed, you know, we made it pretty late in the season this year, which is good. And basically the mountain bike trails are still closed right now, they will probably be opening up sooner than later with this weather that's happening. You know, we will make an announcement when those trails are open and rideable. We're still waiting on letters from the Army Corps of Engineer and from DEC to move forwards with the grant process of bidding out the projects. ACTA will be developing basically you have to create for the RFPs, you gotta create a GPS map that anybody that's bidding on the project can walk the same trail as everybody else so that they know exactly where they're maneuvering, what they have to go over and what the different, and then there's a scope that goes along with it to create a fair bidding process. So we are starting that process now that things are starting to clear out in the woods and we can actually walk them. We already have it kind of in place, but basically fine detail of that part of it. That is part of the matching portion, with AFTA doing that towards the matching parts of the grant, which is $60,000, has to come up to go towards the 310, as part of 310,000. So that portion will be allocated, their volunteer hours will be allocated towards that portion of it. CAA has contributed $10,000 too, and the town of Webb has $10,000 also this year. So it's 5 years progress that has to be done in, so we won't have any problem meeting our match with that, with all those things going on. That's pretty much what I have so far that I can really talk about, I guess, so that's about it.
Thank you, Kurt. Tommy?
We got a couple things. First, that probably most important, time sensitive, is we got a $5,000 guaranteed check from the New York State DEC for upgrades and such for wherever we want to use it. It doesn't have to be specific to the rec center. It could be any buildings we have that we need to tell them what our intent is to use it for before May 1st, or we just lose that money. So I was just hoping we could get like a, you know, something specified to spend that on.
Yeah, what do you
It's
guys
like
wanna spend
lighting,
that on?
Park Ave, there could be fans at the rec center.
Windows at the back room here that you can see through.
Just something to keep in mind. We don't have to, you know, necessarily decide right now, but before May 1st, if we could just get something there, like where that money's just gone.
Well, it's April, we probably should decide.
Andy asked about lighting at Park Ave, to continue the lighting replacement there.
We could probably get a quote for the overall lights in all of our buildings that need upgrading, and maybe just combine them all, because it doesn't have to be specific to one building.
Okay.
You understand it too, so.
It's not a match or nothing like that, it's just,
No, it's just 5,000 we have there.
And then that, we can discuss that and figure that out. The Northern Borders Commission, that grant upcoming, if we could get a,
Yeah, we're doing that with Corey on Friday.
yeah, that letter of intent,
Yep.
use wherever. And then, you know, just the key fobs and the cameras down there at North Street that we've been talking about. You know, we budgeted for some money out of buildings before, back in October. I have a couple quotes here from two different places, and I was just hoping to kind of get that to actually move forward and get those install dates before these guys get too busy. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it, but they were in your boxes. You know, the cameras just cover the building and protect it, and then the access points to get in and out of the building, just using the key fob, just to make it easier for everybody to use and not deal with the lost key here, a lost key there. Maybe somebody, you know, who shouldn't be allowed to go in there anymore holds on to their key or whatever. You can just use this key fob system. So I'm just hoping to, you know, kind of put that in motion here.
Can you tell us what is in the budget for that? Do you recall?
We didn't have a quote, so we didn't put anything, an actual number in the budget. We just talked about adding
Allowing for it?
something for it. Is there a way we could do one thing and not both right now, or?
I do have
Is that a
I do have a
possibility?
separate thing here where we did, the cameras would be 7,123 if we did the cameras. That's the outdoor and indoor, the camera system. And then they actually, that's with one company, Taz Electronics, and they came down on their access system of 6433. So it's two separate things. That'd be about 13 grand for that. And then the other one is Big Apple. You know, if you wanted to get it closer down to 10, they took away some cameras, they took away some access doors, and they said we could just add stuff. We kind of spoke about that, adding stuff next year, budgeting more for it. But it would just, as long as we have the front door, you know, using that system, that would just help so much. And then the cameras, you know, just protecting the building. Right now, there's just that 360 broadcast camera down there.
So this is basically an abbreviated one, so it's
Yes.
cutting back on how many doors we do the key fobs on, and then just minimizing the camera.
I don't have a preference of who we go with down there. Down there, the Big Apple did our speaker system down there. That's still working. They did that 20 years ago. The CA still uses that. Taz Electronics did that 360 camera that's outside that anybody can access. This would be different than that, but they already have. They've done the most recent work down there. But the difference in the quotes, I think there's more coverage and more stuff in this one for, you know, $7 grand and 6,400 than there is in the one for 10 from Big Apple.
So if you wanted to cut into it a little bit and just do key fobs for a couple doors and cut into the cameras, you'd have to kind of get another quote, huh?
That's what we have. That's what I had. So I got that from when you guys had those before. So that's what I just got that yesterday from those guys, because I had a feeling that it was going to go that way with having the full elaborate system. So
I have a question. Could you apply that DEC grant to this?
no, I don't think so, because that's energy driven. You know, becoming more efficient. We talked about that before. That would have made it easier, but no.
I think that cutting it back, not doing the full max package and bringing it back down, I remember it being more in line of what you're getting here with this, which is not as much equipment, you know, under the 10, than doing the full thing. We can always see how that's working, and then if we need to improve on it, then we improve
Right, you
on
can
it.
always get more.
So, but, you know,
Yeah.
I do
So
agree
you guys
I
don't.
agree with the key fob and doing some of the cameras, so we have some coverage there, but I don't
Sounds
know if
good.
we need to do the full, what the other full estimate that you had there was shown with all the.
Yeah, so this one,
Right off the bat.
that's what they did here. They brought this down to 6,400. It was 99. It was
Yeah.
two separate quotes.
Is that for cameras and key
This
fob?
is just the key file system.
Right, but this is, what I'm seeing here, I didn't get a chance to see this one, but
Yeah.
this one's key fobs and cameras, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that price is
Mhm.
at 10,
Yeah. It's just below 10.
just below 10,
Because
so.
he has taxing.
The other one I thought was adding up to like, what, 15 or 16 or something like that, right? Yeah, so.
They were closer to 20 the way it would have
Right,
been.
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
I'm saying that this seems fair, that seems like
I'm
an,
agreeing with you, buddy.
Yeah.
so.
I just didn't know which
Well, the only
company
question
you wanted to
is,
use. That's all I was getting.
without putting a number in any kind of budget, is there money there? I mean, I've said it
Yeah,
before, it's only April.
I went back and
I
pulled
know,
my
and
budget.
we've already spent, and I don't mean to bring this up, but we spent $45,000 on hockey boards that weren't in the budget. So, it is only April, so I'm a little, you're right, and it is concerning, but we do need something down there, so.
Correct, and I'm not against it, I'm just.
I'm not either.
It's one of the things that I just had in my budget back then. We just didn't have like a set.
We didn't, yeah,
amount
we
that
didn't
were
have a
gonna
set
do.
amount.
The other stuff that I had that was in there was for the stuff that Taiwan Construction did with the fans and
Yes.
insulation and all that. But we had said that there was going to be money set aside for that and that position we were trying to hire. So.
I have a question. So the fob fob system goes on the door. Those doors aren't the greatest doors.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're not
the-
buying new doors.
Yeah, yeah. Those doors will be fixed. Alex down there, they're aware of it. Yeah, it'll just.
Yeah, and the lighting isn't, there is no light at night, like outside the building. it's horrible if you ever walk out there at night. Basically, you're putting your car lights on the door to lock it.
Yeah, but
and
I
things
mean,
like that.
you use a key to unlock the door.
Well, I
So you
don't
could
really
probably
think-
manage putting a card or a key fob in front of an access thing, I would imagine,
I don't
without
think
the
so.
light.
Put a light out there
It's
too.
not really safe walking out there if there's ice and things like that as well, 'cause you can't
Oh,
see.
yeah, we can get a light out, yeah, I wasn't aware of the no
Thought
light.
that there is a light outside.
There is, but it's like
Well,
off
it's
to
a
the
safety
side
issue.
and it's like real
I
dim.
didn't know there was a safety issue.
Yeah, yeah, we'll take care of
Just to
that.
be safe for
Yep.
people. If you could take a look at that, that would be great.
You got it. So what do you guys wanna do?
Well, I think that we should do it, but maybe just identify which cameras you need, and then let's just have
I
the
mean,
two
I can
companies
get
rebid
you,
it.
I can get you the re-emitted quotes from the two companies, so each company has a
Yeah,
fair
let's-
chance at getting the business.
Let's,
So,
yeah, let's,
I'll
Sounds
do
like
that,
we're
get
in
that
agreement
to
to
you.
that, just not doing the full.
Yeah, that's
big
what I'm
package
saying,
for
I,
the full
Right.
amount, doing the
That sounds-
abbreviated
the
one
full
for now.
one was closer to 17 or 18,000, you know, depending on which one it was, and then we kinda talked about maybe just bringing that down a little bit and then adding more next year.
Next year.
So
Sounds
I
good.
can totally.
I mean, I would think, this is just me, that cameras would be, I thought would be a little more usable than key fobs. I mean, we can get in the building with keys right now, but the cameras would at least show us things that we can't see of all the time.
I think they're both necessary to
Yeah.
start with.
With the
We can
use
start with a
increasing,
smaller amount.
with the use increasing, the key
Yeah.
fobs just helps out with all that.
We just wish us to identify where we think the best place for
Sure.
the cameras are, how many cameras that would be.
That's all.
The key fob, put it in there, and if we can get down to a price that doesn't have to be the max, we'll see how it works this year. And then address
then
what
add
needs
to
to
it.
be
Thank
added
you.
to it for next year.
You know, I'll just have them redo those quotes.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay.
Other than that, yeah, I had the, you know, that's it, we'll leave with that for now.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tom. Barb?
I don't really have anything important other than Tom and I did do the interviews for the candidates that we appointed tonight, and we also interviewed another person, but we're waiting on a question from the attorney on residency for this woman who would like to serve. She is not a resident of the community, but a property owner, and we want clarification on that from our attorney. And also we'll be interviewing another person this week for zoning or planning also, to try and fill those spots that just got vacated. And Tom and I met yesterday with Andy Getty to finally go over, I say finally, I don't mean that like an impatient kind of thing. It is in my world, because this is my last year, but the zoning review, we want to get it done. So we went over many of the comments that the attorney had made to us. And we have a little bit more to do, but we're going to get it ready for public hearing as soon as we can, so that we can get that adopted and move on to the next step of whatever that is.
Awesome.
That's all.
Mike?
Just a couple quick things. Thanks, Bonnie. First of all, I guess I want to thank everybody for coming to this tonight. Our job is to listen and to make the best decision, you know, that we hear and what we feel is the right thing. That's what we do. So thank you. The other thing is I'd like to bring up the Pink Ribbon Riders. They've been doing this for a long time, and they keep coming back to our community, and they seem to be doing pretty well. So I think the name is Jody.
Jody.
Oh, thank you, Jody, because that's a big deal.
Something for our board, because we did so well.
No, she's been doing that for a long time, and she keeps coming back. Obviously, we support her, so
Yeah.
thanks for everybody for the support. That's it.
All right. I have just a couple things. The ambulance is gonna use the lakefront again for their annual fundraiser with the flags. Is that cool with everybody up here? This year they will have 2 sizes which can be purchased from them. You can dedicate a flag to a loved one or to a person of choice. I encourage you all to contribute to this fundraiser. It's really a great event. Number 2, there's seats up for election right now, November 2nd. There's 2 town board seats up for election. My seat is up for election. I am running again. Town clerk's seat is up for election. Nancy is running again. Casey Crowfoot's seat is up for election, and he is running again. I just want everybody to be aware that these seats are up if anyone's interested.
What are the filing dates?
You'd
The
have,
next date is, April 18th, you can start signing petitions for independent, and
Independent.
they're due, you missed the party ones. I think they're due May 23rd through like the 30th or something. I'm not sure the due date. It's in the end of May.
We talked about that. The committee that, for the CDBG, there's gonna be a committee formed. Kyle Lindsay, Barb Bologna, Lisa Bolton, and Dan Kieferbach have decided that they would like to do that. So they'll be on that committee to help Don with the grant. Other than that, I guess we are off to you next.
I know. Just a reminder, we have a rabies clinic coming up on May 18th at the Old Forge Fire Hall. Thursday, 5:30 to 7. And it's a $5 donation, and walk-ins are welcome, and you can pre-register. So that's on May 18th.
What times it is?
5:30 to 7 at the Fire Hall. Like I said, walk-ins are due. A phone number you can call to pre-register. $5 per pet. They do take dogs, cats, and ferrets. But you would get your ferret, so
And that's a really good deal because it costs a lot to get in.
Yeah, yeah.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy, people can call you for the pre-registration?
Yeah, or you can just walk in, but I do have the number. 867-1176.
Wait, say it again.
867-1176.
Thank you.
And that's to Public Health is where that number is too.
It's posted on the town Facebook page.
And it's on our government page, it's on Facebook, and it's on our government page.
Okay, now we're gonna go to the assembly. Please state your name for the record. Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm gonna stand up and take my mask off, okay? You like polls, right, Bonnie? I hear you like polls?
Polls?
Yeah, you know, like who likes Carly Simon's "You're So Vain"?
Of course.
Did you jump on your Learjet and go to the Nova Scotia to see the total eclipse of the sun? 1 year from now, Bonnie,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
the total eclipse of the
Total
sun
eclipse.
is going right over Old Forge. And it's April 8th, a Monday, and everything's going to be closed. So I think you ought to do something about that. That's my first thing.
It's a Monday.
Yeah. Why did they close?
If it is clear out, that will, people come from,
They'll
like,
come
People
from
will come
everywhere.
from all over.
Yeah.
They come from
The
everywhere.
train should do their observation train
Yeah,
thing.
and it's only
every-
4 minutes long.
It will
too,
be a
so
big
you
thing.
pulse.
There's gonna be 4
In the
minutes of
mid-morning.
darkness in the middle of the day. You can shoot off fireworks and whatever the hell you wanna do.
I am. I'm trying.
Oh, very
I'm
cool.
writing fast.
We got a year
People
to
will come
plan.
from all over.
Let's make it big. This next thing. Like polls, how many people love Herkimer County?
Old Forge is in it.
They're giving us a rabies clinic. Anyway,
So we all complain. We go, Herkimer County, what do they do for us? We send all our money down there. What do they do for us? All right. Prior to 1966, the county of Herkimer was run by the Board of Supervisors. She would have been running Herkimer County. But what happened was that the Supreme Court said one person, one vote. So they had to make legislative districts. They made legislative districts with equal amounts of people and then legislative districts. So one person, one vote. Our supervisor is not included. Our supervisor used to be, as a matter of fact, you remember Phil Burdick? He was the supervisor for a long period of time. You remember Phil Burdick?
Remember the name.
Yeah, long period of time. He was the supervisor, he was the chairman of the Board of Supervisors for a long period of time. So we had a very big connection to Herkimer County. What's happened now? What's happened now?
Disconnect.
Okay, so we need to change that, right? Rather than complaining all the time, we need to change that. We have low expectations from Herkimer County and we allow them to live up to it. How many of you have looked at Herkimer County budget? there's gold mine in there, isn't there, Bonnie?
Sure is.
And that gold mine is called the town of Webb. That gold mine is worth $2 billion. There's no other township in the Herkimer County budget that is worth that much money. So we're a gold mine. We have power. We have status. We have agency. Right? So why are we not demanding our fair share of services and things and accepting distances too far? Because we don't like to go to Herkimer either, do we?
No.
We want them to come here, right? Okay. So I'm proposing a resolution for the town of Webb to establish a group of interested citizens to study for a period of up to 1 year how we can improve our relationship with Herkimer County and recommend other options such as forming our own entity or joining a contiguous county. And I'm requesting the proposal be put on the table for discussion and voted on no later than the June board meeting. If a group is formed, it needs guidelines and connections to Herkimer to be able to contact department heads, influencers, and other Mohawk Valley economic and social realms, and understand the services that are provided and available. Herkimer has just appointed a new development coordinator, and we need to establish a working relationship with the county and to come to a fair analysis. Therefore, I request that a second resolution be adopted that our county legislator, who's currently Patrick Russell, but regardless of who it is, whoever is in that position, whoever holds that position, be requested to attend monthly Webb board meetings and to report what's been happening in Herkimer County, and to start that connection and to start that dialogue. And that at a minimum, minutes from the most contemporaneous Herkimer County board meeting be entered into the minutes of your meeting. Now, you can keep complaining, or we can think about how we can stop complaining and make things work together. Because there've been a few people, Adirondack, or Living 80K, Library, the Ambulance Corps, they've been working on developing relationships with Herkimer County departments, and it's working. They're doing things for us. Public Health is coming. A lot of other social agencies are coming. But if we don't keep up that level when we get busy in the summer, what's going to happen? So I think it's time that we, instead of just sitting on our fannies saying, Herkimer County, they never do anything for us, that we just take the initiative and say, let's fix it. Let's fix it now. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I love it.
Can we get copies of your notes?
Do you have a copy of the resolution you want to do?
I'll give you a copy of my notes.
And then I can copy and share?
Anyone else? Oh, I know you're out there. Go ahead.
I'd just like to say about the
Do you want me to make copies?
Ribby's back machine thing.
I have some copies.
I made an appointment over the phone with Herkimer County about a week ago for
You want a copy?
5:30, right at the beginning of the thing at the fire hall. They couldn't
No.
have been nicer. They were very cooperative.
Very nice.
Understood where I was coming from, what kind of time of the day you wanted to be there, the whole thing.
Great. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Yes.
A couple of quick questions.
Mhm.
Looking at the town's, the digital towpath website, there was a thing posted called the CEC report, and it's a big graph. It looks like it has to do with energy consumption for all the town buildings, and it also included the fire department for some reason. Can anybody explain what that is? Was it something commissioned by the town, or is there something you're gonna do with it, or?
Dan,
Dan.
Dan can explain that. We
So I can talk a
posted
little
it, we
bit about
posted it
that.
for Dan.
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, town passed a benchmarking resolution as part of New York, NYSERDA and DC both have two sort of
sister brother organizations. One's called Climate Smart Communities, one's called Clean Energy Communities. Clean Energy Communities was part of these grant funds that have been coming down for different things that the town's already doing. So upgrading the town candles to LED light fixtures. And so they're keeping tabs on these upgrades that have been done, and they've given money to the town. So far we've gotten $10,000, and then additional $5,000, so $15,000 in the last couple months from doing things that we're already doing and saving on our own electric bills in the process. So pretty cool program. The next one to check off one of these boxes, we had to pass a benchmarking resolution where we needed to take a look at our energy usage in all of our town buildings. Most of these buildings are built in the 50s, 60s, 70s, right? So, you know, as much as we've done upgrades over the years, there are definitely some buildings that are more and less in the way that we're like using our heat and cooling. And so the benchmarking resolution was just a way to get a grip of like where are we spending our money? Is it this building? Is it Park Ave building? Is it and then looking at those and saying, all right, we've got a finite amount of budget in our buildings line item. If we're going to upgrade a building and re-insulate something or put windows in something, maybe it's a building that you wouldn't think of normally. That would be the problem. So as part of the benchmarking resolution, it now needs to be made public knowledge. So that benchmark was a coalesce of the propane usage, the heat oil usage, and the electric usage of all the buildings in the community. And so that's going to be updated on like a fairly frequent basis, and that was done through Mohawk Valley Economic Development District. They graciously donated their time. Amanda Kyer, also shout out on the record for coming up here, and to all the town employees for allowing us to go into all these different buildings. Saved us about $3,000 had we needed to sub this out to a contractor. She came up, visit for the day with her family and her daughter to do that for us, to give us sort of this free information to say, hey, town of Webb folks, take a look at this stuff. So I know it's a really long explanation, but there's a lot of thank yous due for that as well. But now we're all privy to where the building energy usage is, and now we can decide, as we're spending our monies, you know, where that should be spent. So.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
She's not done.
Okay, I'm not done. Sorry, I've got a few more. Sorry. Oh, the transfer station, a few months ago, I think it was you, Barb, that was talking about doing a placard and sticker system. Did that gain any traction? Is that something that's gonna be happening, or are you still talking about it? Or?
No, honestly, February 14th kind of gutted me, so I haven't put much energy into following through with the smaller details yet, but we need to talk more about it.
Okay.
It's still on a back burner.
Okay, so it's on the table still.
It's there.
Okay. I think
It's
it's a
out there
great idea,
somewhere,
because I keep hearing stories of people coming in with
Mhm.
trailer loads of stuff from other communities and dumping it at our transfer station. There's not much anybody could do about it, so I like the idea. I don't have my glasses on, I apologize.
I can read it for you. Girl, you got this.
You talked at the last board meeting about a new position, that you hadn't really come up with a title yet, or duties or anything. Where does that stand? I'm just curious about that.
That's another one of those
my
things.
next question.
We have a really lot going on. That's all I can say.
So it's still
Still being talked about.
So something's going to happen eventually. Okay, just curious about it because nothing was mentioned. The other thing that wasn't mentioned at all was whether anything is happening or nothing will be happening with the People First proposal. Is that a dead thing in the water? Have you heard anything from them?
No, I've not heard.
Because they were supposed to be doing surveys, to my knowledge. You haven't heard anything about that?
The only communication that I have had has been that they are still listening. I know that their website is still live, and they are still receiving comments there.
Okay.
And that's all, that's the only communication.
Okay, all right. So there's really no ongoing contact with them, with the board. Okay. And I noticed, and was glad to see, that there were added to the digital towpath site minutes from the audit of claims and agendas and that kind of thing. So I'm glad to see that. Just have a question. Since there are minutes and there are public hearing or public meetings, does that mean that you can make decisions because you have minutes
On the Mondays?
at your audited claims?
They don't normally.
Well, I
They
know,
very
but is it
rarely
a?
make it.
But we can.
They can
But
because
you
it's a public
can,
meeting.
It's
but
because
legal,
it used to
yes.
be you couldn't, because there were no minutes. So I'm wondering if that now has changed the dynamic, and if.
No, I just, people were asking for them, so I'm
No, I
trying to
think
be
that's
pro.
great.
It
I
didn't
think
change
it's
that
good,
many,
but I'm
I'm
just
just,
wondering if it changed the dynamic and if it should be another meeting that's recorded so that people, if decisions are being made, it looked like there's a lot of stuff, a lot of town business being talked about, which I'm not objecting to, I'm just saying that, you know.
Yeah, we weren't making decisions, we were just talking about what we were gonna
Okay,
decide on.
But even if you don't make decisions, I'm just requesting that, if it's
You
not a
want to be
big deal
recorded.
to record them, you know, sometimes the minutes are just difficult to follow. Nothing against you, it's just you can't really, you can't
Can't
get
feel
the
it.
sense of what's going on.
Mhm.
So, would you be willing to, once you've audited the claims, cause that's nothing anybody wants to see, could you record that and put it on that site so that we can see?
I don't think it should be a problem.
I don't see it being a problem.
Okay, I mean, I don't know who does that, who's in charge of it.
We have
or
a man.
anything, but You have a man?
We have a
We
man.
have a man.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay, thank you.
I try.
Appreciate it. Okay, that's all, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir?
Last month there, you talked about getting hockey boards, but one cost that was not, undetermined was the shipping costs.
Yeah, it was the 5,000, the 45,000, they included the shipping total with that. It was actually more for the shipping, but they worked with us, so it was a 45 cap.
With chaos last month with, the parade, has there been an application for a Memorial Day parade?
I don't know, we don't file applications, the parades don't come from us.
Or permit, or?
We don't file any permits for any parades. Those permits don't come from us, they come from the people who are putting the parade on. So that comes from across the street. If they're gonna put one on, they'll have a permit.
So, kind of, in my mind, I've never known of an organization putting it on, it just kinda happens, but the.
American Legion puts that
American
parade
Legion
on.
puts that on.
Yep.
So each organization, whatever.
Yep, the school puts theirs on, the, CAA puts the St. Patty's Day.
Fire
Fire
hall.
department,
Christmas on Main
department.
Street, the CAA.
Is there a cost for permits?
I don't think so.
No, it's just insurance costs.
They'd have workman's compensation and insurance.
insurance costs, so how's that covered?
The
Each,
organization has
each
to have
organization
it.
has to have
insure
it.
New York State.
Last year, there was, you had, Wi-Fi from the bridge up through town.
We didn't actually do it, the antennas didn't get installed yet. There was talk, when the antennas get installed, there was talks of whether we were gonna charge them with the internet or not. You're gonna ask about Eagle Bay?
Yep.
We put money in the budget for Eagle
It
Bay
was
this year.
approved, yes.
It was approved, we're just waiting for them to, hook it up over there, so the intention is for Eagle Bay to have a hotspot at the, at their little
Yeah.
kiosk there, the building.
Restroom?
Yeah,
Wel-
restroom.
welcome
So-
center.
Well, it's a welcome center. Not just a it's not just a restroom, it's welcome center. That's right.
You're welcome to be here.
So,
Very nice.
so that should be in place by summer.
Anything
It's
else?
It's not gonna be happening in town, this year.
I mentioned to you, and I'm gonna follow up with you about the APA and DEC having, conversation about road mileage and trail mileage for, mileage on state roads, state roads on forest preserve properties, and snowmobile mileage on forest preserve properties. And they're trying to hold the mileage at the 1972 levels with a great amount of increase of acreage. You know, the state has purchased a lot of properties since 1972, and they're still trying to hold the mileage at for 50 years ago. And that, the town of Webb being a great portion of it being owned by the state, I know they've tried to take mileage, like say out of the Fulton Chain, unit management plan and transfer it to other areas. What I was looking at and mentioned to Bonnie, and I had a brief conversation with Mike, and I had helped draft a letter to the APA, because it's, April 15th or 17th is the deadline for a letter to the APA. And for the town of Webb to support a mileage increase, so the town of Webb and the other Adirondack communities don't get more burdened by the restrictions of the APA. And I needed clearer and better understanding myself. I was very involved with it back when I was on board, but I'm not as up to date as to present a conversation like this, but I'm going to make myself more aware of the information, and if we could have a conversation with you and help draft a letter out this week in support of a mileage increase on the state properties.
I think we got time for that.
Anybody want to comment? You're all sitting there.
I don't really know.
I really don't know anything about
Right.
the mileage part, to be honest. That's something completely. I have no clue.
wasn't the only one on
It's a
that.
complicated thing with the state, and that's part of their vagueness and keeping it to themselves. And
Is this for the taxes they pay, or is this?
no, not in taxes or anything. It's just like the snowmobile trail, say Trail 10, from Rondax Road to Big Moose Road.
Okay.
That mileage is counted in a
Oh, okay.
total, for as snowmobile mileage.
Okay.
Now, the state's got a restricted amount of mileage for snowmobile trails and say like road systems through, say like the mileage going into Nix Lake Park. I'm sure that's counted as a road. And for the state forest preserve mileage.
Okay.
But we haven't been looking and expanding anything, so I don't understand why we would need to ask for more. We're not.
I've always felt the town of Webb, that's part of the environmental problems here. No one person, I was probably the most involved at one point there with the state and stuff, and I was going to forest preserve advisory meetings and stuff and making myself more knowledgeable on the fact, but I dropped out of politics, and then my momentum of things dropped out. We need someone in town to know what's going on with the state properties and access to them and stuff. We got a big piece of property over here in the Flatirons that the state acquired. I don't think anyone can even make a comment about the usage of that or the access to it. Well, one comment I heard a month or two ago, the state had an easement to that property, but they didn't want the easement, so that restricts access to that property. Could be a big use to the public, but the state's got no access to it.
I know that 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, they did the unit management plan at Park Avenue building. They had opened a public hearing, and a lot of us went. I know it might have been 4 years ago, because I was on the board then, but we drafted a letter from the CAA, I believe, and presented at the meeting, talking about access, and I believe that the town might have had conversations at the time too, but there was, they had a thing there, because they were also talking about the fact that the bridge on the backside there by the golf course would be ripped out too, was in their plan. And so there was talks in there too of making sure that they replaced it with something so that there was access from both sides still. So I know that plan's still in the process. That was, I'm speaking from past, not on the board, so this is not a board speaking, but I know that they've been working on that plan for a long time now.
Well, I recollect at that time frame, I talked to Robert Moore, who was the supervisor at the time, and he wrote a letter, the supervisor.
Right, yeah, he had mentioned that he was writing something too, so I'm not sure specifically what was written, but I know that I was at those meetings, and that the DEC was then gonna meet with Mr. Moore, so they'd go over whatever they spoke about, but I wasn't up on the board then, so.
But yeah, I did ask them about that, a year and a half ago, and they were, or a year ago, and I went down and met with them, and they were still, it didn't sound like they were much closer at the time with,
I'm sure COVID and everything else messed up their
Yeah.
public process, this and that.
Yeah.
But the full, that was the Fulton Shade Unit Management Plan, which controls Fourth Lake, the south side, the campgrounds,
Yep,
all the property from Eagle Bay to Big Moose.
yep.
David, why don't you find out where that stands for us and let us know?
I've been working on that, I will follow
Okay.
through and find out. Because I've been trying to bring it up on the website and stuff, there's no information on it that I've been able to hit. I will call down to Herkimer and find out, and I'll get back to Donnie
Thank you.
about that and the mileage and stuff, because I was concerned that they were gonna take mileage out of this unit management plan and put it in another one, in another community.
You find it out. People are wiggling in their seats
Yep.
now, so.
Anybody else? Yes, sir. Andy Getty.
Would the board like a quick update on short-term rentals?
Sure would.
Love it.
As you know, we contracted with GovOS as a hosting platform for online registration of short-term rentals. That will go live May 1. Been a lot of work in between 3-4 months ago when we started that process, and now from Connie and Tina in the office, working with GovOS on weekly meetings via Zoom in the meeting room for online payments, all the forms that we've designed, they've now put into their system. I'll let Connie better explain how one applies online, but I'll give you a quick update as to where we stand. We have been receiving paper applications, a traditional method, and so far we've received 95 applications. 72 of those have been issued. We've done 84 inspections. Obviously some were re-inspected. We have 9 that we've received that we're waiting to confirm scheduling of an inspection. We have 7 more inspections scheduled for the next coming few days. Of the ones issued, we've received $69,000 approximately. Once all are paid and all that we've received, the 95 that we've received, if all are issued and paid, that would be equivalent to just under $100,000. GovOS has estimated that there's at least 430 more out there.
How many?
They will search and find the internet, communicate directly with them. But I'll let you take it over from there if you don't mind.
So, as Andy said, they have identified approximately 430 properties. That doesn't necessarily mean there are. Some of them could be doubles. It could be advertising on multiple sites. So they do this manually, and this is just part of the process. And when we go live on May 1st, at that time, letters will be sent out to all those people. And that's part of the process of the things we've been doing in the background, is writing letters and just doing all the background materials needed for that to happen. So like we said, as of May 1st, letters will go out to people who have not sent in paper applications, and they can do it online. They can still come to the office. There's still several ways for people to do it. They come in the office, we can do it online for them. But our goal is to have everything in this one site, so you know, everything will be in there, reports will be in there, inspections will be in there. So if you have a short-term rental, you can go in there and see your reports, inspections. Is there anything else? So 95% of the admin site right now is complete. The section for going on and applying, that is complete at this time. So we're on target for May 1st at this time. The longest part of the process is for payment process, and that won't be completed until 2 weeks before we go live.
Great.
The online payment also includes, we have a card reader now in the office, so finally we can accept credit cards for billing permits and things of that nature. No fees to the town. The applicant would pay whatever the credit card fee company charges. those are added to whatever the cost is. The town would always be 100%.
But people can still pay checks too, without,
Checks.
right.
I prefer not cash, but we accept cash, but my preference is check or credit card.
And if
Thank
somebody,
you.
if somebody went in and applied, how long does it take before the inspection and the process? I was asked that today, and
We immediately, within a day or two, are contacting them via phone or email to schedule inspection. We prefer either the owner or their manager be with us for that inspection. So we do that almost immediately. We have some waiting for inspection, maybe they couldn't get here until Friday or whatever.
Some camps aren't opening until
Yeah.
April, May.
Yeah, some aren't opened yet.
okay. Pretty much at their convenience at this point.
Yes.
To a degree, it does have to be Monday through Friday.
Yeah, right.
But we're trying to turn it over. Do I anticipate the month of May being a little bit crazy once we go live and GovOS sends out 430 letters to rental owners?
Right.
Yeah, we're apt to get inundated for a month or two. But we'll just.
But the board's
deal
made
with
it clear that nobody will not be able to rent because they don't have their.
No, we're
Right,
not
right.
stopping
No one's gonna be
anybody
held
from
up.
renting. We've had a lot of items identified as needing correction, smoke alarms, handrails, a lot of different things. The worst case scenarios have been some windows that need to get replaced for a larger, more appropriate size emergency egress from sleeping areas. We've had very little pushback on that. Septic systems, we have some that will be scheduled for replacement. I give them 6 months, 9 months, work out, a negotiated agreement when they're clearly undersized or old or needing of repair. So far it's gone actually relatively smooth.
Another question I had, Andy, was if they just had their tank pumped out recently, is Egan good enough to say what the size of the tank?
Yeah,
Okay.
Egan, J&S Service, there's a couple others.
Or whoever pumped it, I guess.
They would identify the type of tank, size, and condition.
Right, okay, thanks.
Yeah, they've been sending us reports.
A couple of comments that I'd like to make. Number one, I did read on the Second Homeowners Facebook page some very positive feedback about your office and the ease of process there, so that's nice to hear.
Hopefully
And
that stays true at the end of May. When
well, hopefully everybody understands too when it's crunch time, that's just what it is. The other point is that the monies that you're collecting now, this is a 2-year application,
That's
so
correct.
this is the first time out of the gate, so this year is gonna look pretty spectacular, but that will change over time and hopefully eventually smooth out to a relative even amount, but,
it is a 2-year permit.
correct.
So,
Right.
GovOS will have an automatic system set up where they start notifying people 60 days prior to renewal. Hey, remember, you gotta renew, and we will go through inspection process again.
Let's get the first round
Yeah,
done.
there's gonna be bumps, no doubt about it, but so far it's been relatively smooth overall.
Good.
Does that website allow the public to see who has complied?
No, the user can look at their site, but you can't go in there.
They can look at information on their own property, but not everybody's property.
There are websites out there that you can just Google and you can type in short-term, like a Airbnb, whatever, and they'll show you anybody that's registered across any of the platforms. So that is public knowledge that anybody can just Google and I forget the name of the site, but it comes up and you can, anybody that advertises online shows up on it pretty much.
But it doesn't show whether they comply.
No,
Yeah.
it's just a general basis though.
Air DNA, it's called.
Something like that. I think there's 2 sites, but
Just clarity then, you got the local law here, in the one section it says annual permit fee. So that's misstated there.
There is an annual fee, we only charge it every 2 years. That was clarified when that law was established.
So it'd be biannual, huh?
It's an annual fee that's charged twice a year. It's charged every 2 years.
It's called biannual.
It is biannual.
Biannual is twice
It's
a
not
year,
annual.
so it's just a word.
That was the type
Just
of
the way
word.
I think it's every year.
Well, I just, well,
It says annual.
I was just trying to budget whether,
Yeah.
what, whether it's $800 for this summer, and then $800 next summer, or it's $800 for the 2 summers.
Every two.
Every-
You're gonna pay it all up front for the 2 years.
This doesn't state the time period correctly.
Anyone else? Yes, Jackie?
I brought this up at the last meeting regarding any changes to the beach. I have a suggestion as to what maybe can be done with the floating dock that's just sitting there. One thing we can do, if it's safe, I've talked to Scott and we think it's possible, but pending your approval, of course. Bringing the dock out just past the shallow water buoy, no diving, and it would just be something that people can swim up and sit on. I have to just make sure that a guard can get out there in 30 seconds and that it's visible to all the guards from all the areas. So if we maybe turned it a little bit, you know, tweaked it, it might be possible for people to enjoy instead of just sitting there. Second option would be attaching it to the dock that's there now. Really doesn't serve a whole lot of purpose. Those are the only two things that I can think of, and I don't know what the board would like to do with that. I just need to know to submit all this documentation and pictures and things like that to Department of Health as soon as possible. Or if
Right.
there's any other changes that you want to make to the beach.
So I know that every time there's a change, there's also a need or a demand for lifeguards. If putting out the floating dock, does that exceed the current lifeguard status that we have, or
We
is that
would
gonna-
still have 5 guards on, no change. They would have to see, I would have them positioned in a different position, not on the platform, because you can't see around it if I have one on it. So they would still be on one of the docks and on the far side near the supervisor's window. Just probably a little bit down further, so it doesn't impact staffing, more staffing at all, no. It's just, what do you wanna do with it? I mean, we can leave it where it is, it's completely up to you guys, just. please
Useless
tell me.
where it is.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it going out there. We
I
moved
don't.
it because of the safety issue that we had, as long as it's not going in the same place.
Right,
As long as it's not gonna shift.
Shift, right, it would have to be locked down.
and
so
well, if it's, obviously, we're not gonna do it if it's not safe, but we're gonna give it a try if that's what, something that you guys
Sounds good.
feel is okay to try.
There's ways to make it not shift.
So, and then I would say the only other thing that you probably don't know about yet is there's gonna be a swing set put in over onto the beach side of the fence.
So is that one gonna be moved, taken out, the old one?
The old one's just getting moved over to this side over
Okay.
here. So, and the new playground's being put in there right now as well, not as we speak, but by Friday, the new playground will be in, so.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is, we'll try it,
Yeah.
to dock out there and see.
Yeah, I think you should try it.
I'm good with
Say
that.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, let's use it and.
Sounds good.
Something. Did we save any pieces to the old playground? Like the pole or anything
No.
to slide? Nothing?
No.
Okay. I just had an idea, but I'm not gonna share it.
Too late.
You don't need my ideas.
Need my ideas. Anybody else?
I may have missed this, but do we have a new town assessor?
Right now we have, Amy Van Wee is an appointed temporary 6-month assessor.
6 months, and then
Yes.
so the search is beginning when
Yes, it's already on.
underway.
May
Yep.
May 1st is the last date to apply.
Last stage.
And she still works for the town of Inlet?
Yes,
She's codes there, right?
codes and assessing.
Both.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The new assessor could be appointed within less than 6 months, possibly, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, for less than?
Yeah.
Right.
she's here for the most at 6 months, she can help
At
train
most.
and.
So, find someone, they could be terminated, right?
Anyone else?
Brought something to mind, do you know what the current equalization rate is? Anybody know?
82.5 maybe?
It's in the lower eighties,
Lower
yeah,
80s,
lower to mid 80s.
I don't remember the exact. Has there been, I know it's a tough time with transition, but has there been any discussion about revale?
Well, we were
As soon
gonna.
as possible.
Yeah,
That was in the plan.
Yeah, okay.
it was a
But as soon
plan.
as we can get somebody in place, yes, that will be the next plan.
Be warned, everybody should be warned.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody else had, yes, Dan?
Of course, I gotta speak up again. Just something, food for thought, get it publicly. I don't know if you guys have considered moving town board nights to different nights than the inlet town board's nights. Just in the interest of regional sort of cohesion, it's the exact same nights on both times, and I know that we are completely different towns, but we share a lot in common, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity sometimes for us to understand what's going on in Inlet as a community, and for those board members to understand what's going on in the town of Webb, and maybe some opportunities to learn from one another, because a lot of the same things are going on at both board meetings. So just something to consider. I know that might be a bit of a stretch, but I don't know how difficult it would be to move to the second Wednesday of every month. Might be a good idea. Just throwing it out there.
Have you thrown it at them?
I knew you were going to say they meet next week because they shifted it, and I'm super happy because I'm going to get to go and see them as well, and you all can go next week as well if anybody wants to go see what that looks like.
Thank you.
Before you get too shifty, there's a lot of other community meetings already scheduled,
Yeah, we can reschedule all day long. Anybody else? You sure?
You sure?
Okay, cause I'm, here we go.
Going.
Done.
I'd like a motion to pay the audit of claims, please.
I make a motion that we.
With a
pay the
second?
bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Like a motion to adjourn, please? Barb, second, Kurt, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.